Hey everyone, welcome back to Urban Pro Wrestling. This will be on the UPW radio section. And we have another signing with us, ladies and gentlemen, Truman Hudson III. How are you, man?
I'm doing all right, and yourself?
Doing okay. It's a good Tuesday. By the time they see us, it'll probably be Wednesday. But I like to go straight into these. And the first question that I always ask, it's the same for everyone because I find it always interesting because I've gotten a bunch of different takes on this. Out of all professions, why professional wrestling?
So oddly enough, I used to be in your shoes. I used to be on your side of the camera asking the questions. Back in high school, oddly enough, I had a podcast in which I interviewed pro wrestlers around the world. My first love first love will always be journalism and writing and traveling, and wrestling kind of coincided with that. As time went on, as I interviewed more and more wrestlers, they're like, man, you should look into getting into the business. They just come up throwing out different things because I try to bring as much enthusiasm to the interviews, try to really pull the nitty gritty of what a pro wrestler is. And my senior year of high school, which was 3 years ago, I was in Chicago, got accepted to the university that I wanted to get accepted to, got a scholarship out in Chicago at Columbia College and for journalism. And I had this depression. I felt like this is not what I am here to do. Like there's something so much more. And one of the contacts that I made through the podcast that I had a promotion there, or was running a promotion or helped running a promotion. And, I'm not going to name drop just out of respect, but there was, they never responded to me or anything like that. I'm like, you know what? I think that was one of the first times in my life where I'm like, it's time for me to take the reins. So as we were flying back to Arkansas, because I graduated high school from Arkansas, my last year of high school, I was on Twitter. I saw Shannon Moore tweet that Matt Seidel has the best wrestling school in all of Florida. And 2 years later, I am a proud member of the Side Dojo. And now we've actually collaborated with the Wrestling Lab with Jay Lethal and Connor, or Big Con, as many of you all know. So working with these great talents that have helped push not just the pro wrestling scene in Florida, but have definitely helped push myself to different degrees I never thought I'd be pushed. And wrestling as a whole really pushing me to different levels I never thought I'd be pushed is the reason why I'm in pro wrestling.
Wow, that is a lot right there. And I kind of want to dive into that little by little. I like to start off with training, and you mentioned the Side Dojo. I am actually not really familiar with them, believe it or not. But I do know that every wrestling school here has a bunch of different ways on how to become a wrestler. How was your experience for that?
So we were a very small, intimate school. I wrestle with two other great wrestlers that I think of our generation you'll be able to say, and like, hey, these were the guys that were blah 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 or so and so. Fabu Andre and Tony Donati. And then I also train with Kelsey Desjournay, who is a lady wrestler who, by God, one of the best overall wrestlers that I know, as well as Lance Hayden Seek, but he just goes straight up by Hayden Seek. And we kind of had a student rivalry because we came up together, and then Tony and Fabu came up together, and Matt brought us all five of us up together. And over that 2-year span where we started to get new students like Hardcore Horvath, who is another person you'll definitely be seeing a lot more. And as we all travel and do these different things and explore these different options, the training was the most pivotal part of getting us prepared for all of this. So Matt's style, as many people probably think, if you would have watched him in WWE, it's a very high flying style. It's far from
Which
that.
He's not. He's very technical, which is insane.
Extremely technical. And that's what I always loved. Growing up, I was a Jeff Hardy fan. I was cutting holes in socks and stuff like that, doing do. That was my thing. But then as I got older, I started to appreciate the more technical wrestlers. Benoit, Guerrero, Malenko, and all these different guys that were able to tell a story through technical prowess. And if you really look at all those names, those three names that I just named, including Owen Hart as well, they all have a common connection, and that's Japan. And I know we'll probably get into goals later, and we'll get into that later. But Matt is definitely helping gear myself and my other colleagues for the different paths that we want to take, so that training is very hard hitting. We don't hold any punches. We really put our nose to the ground, really focus on the smallest things, because if you're not making an impact, what are you doing? You're
Exactly.
just else. So yeah, I don't know if I really answered your question, but I tried to answer it in bits and pieces, so those at home can interpret it the way that they will, and you can as well.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I kind of enjoyed that because there's a lot. Again, it's a lot of different nuggets that I can kind of like pinpoint to later. And it's interesting because you did mention very hard hitting. I happen to be one who really has a greater appreciation for technical wrestling. It's one of my favorite things to watch. There truly is no greater thing that tells a story than technical wrestling. And then you had mentioned guys like Owen Hart, guys like Eddie Guerrero, who, yes, to Eddie Guerrero's point, is definitely a luchador to a certain extent, but I think his technical wrestling prowess has always been uh, overlooked, kind of like Matt Sydal. To follow up on that, were you a guy who kind of, I've been told there's two types of people. There are people who kind of just come in, they are just naturals at it, and they get it like rather quickly, or were you a guy who it took a little bit to catch on?
I don't really know. I think the best person to answer that question is my coach. My coaches, now being Jay Lethal and Big Con, as well as David Mercury. I think those guys can definitely give you that answer. But specifically Matt, because he's the one that's been with me since day one. I am only 2 years in. I'll give a little bit more of my story once we get deeper to the podcast of how these 2 years have gone. But I personally feel like the athleticism part I've had, in school, I was kind of like seen as, or high school, I was just seen as like the scrawny kid or whatever. And then once I got into high school, I like seriously focused on calisthenics and working out. And I saw a picture of myself from like 4 years. I was freaking shredded to the gills. I've never thought I was. I thought I was just like, I was just a skinny kid, but I was also doing boxing, doing Muay Thai. Those, although I'm terrible at striking, my real forte is grappling. And as I got older, I got more and more into grappling. Um, Moving towards wrestling, that transition was easy for me. That's all I can say. I'm not going to boast and say I'm, like, oh, I got it from day one. No, I got the athleticism part down from day one because I've always had it. But wrestling is nothing. It's something that I personally think you can get necessarily from day one. It's a learning process. It's something you can have over time. There's people that have the athleticism and they have the footwork to be a professional wrestler, to be a professional athlete, but there's nothing that can ever top being a professional wrestler. I don't think a football player can come in and the first day they can be a professional wrestler and have it off the bat. I think they can have the athleticism, they can have the mindset, but there's nothing in this world that's comparable to being a professional wrestler. So again, to answer your question, my trainers can better answer that, but I'm definitely athletic.
Somehow that answered like two of my questions that we're going to follow up with. It's funny you mentioned combat sports, specifically mixed martial arts, and I had one, and you answered that one like right. You hit it around the nail. My next one would be to talk about training. I always like to go into to a certain degree. How was your first year?
My first year so I was only supposed to be in Florida for 6 months. My mother still lives in Arkansas. Both of my parents were divorced since as long as I can remember. So there was always different places. But my mom slowly moved down south. So first moved to North Carolina, then to Georgia, and then to Arkansas. So further and further south. Next, she'll probably end up in Cuba at this point. Just how getting. So, but she's successful in the background she's in. So she's been one of the main supporters in my wrestling career, and helped pushing me in various ways. And the one thing she wanted me to do though is only come out here for 6 months just to have a feel for it, just to see. I was told that from other wrestlers it's going to be hard leaving home for the first few. You're gonna cry your first night. I didn't cry my first night. I never cried for missing home per se, because my goal was to be a professional wrestler. And in my first year, thanks to, again, my coach Matt, as well as Luke Matthews, who's also known as Champ Matthews on the independent circuit, I got the opportunity to be in a wrestling movie, which I hope comes out. Luke, if you're watching this, man, you got to put it out. It's really, really good. Not just putting myself over for this. I'm just being honest. It's a really good, a short film. And I'm not going to reveal the name, but I'll just say, I'm not going to reveal the name of the movie, but I'll just say that, people have probably actually seen it on social media. It's blown up. So actually I can say it's Kill City Pro. It was a spot that Natalia Markova and another wrestler was in, and it was like a table spot. You've seen it on social media. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's pretty sick. But I wrestled Teddy Hart. He picked me up for a Canadian pile driver. Boom, first one I got. It was again the athleticism, the timing, everything, because wrestling is a very dangerous sport to be in. And I realized that my first year, I believe my third match, I got a DDT. I got to the locker room, I started coughing up blood, spiked myself so hard that I popped a blood vessel, and then I start spitting blood, and that's from DDT. So kids, don't try DDTs at home, because it's not pretty. But over time, those small injuries that I was getting, I was taking Germans, I was landing on my head, getting a concussion, seeing stars in training. I'm not getting a concussion, but getting pretty darn close to it. I learned about how I need to protect myself. So that's when I started hitting the gym more. That's when I started doing different things to help pad my body. Just like any other sport, you have to do your training outside of training, so you're better able to go into the game and go into training with a full mind, body, and soul complete. Because if not, you're gonna fall off. So my first year of training, I don't think I had thought that the training was going to be that rigorous, and that your body's going to take a toll, but God, it does. But Matt Seidel has definitely taught myself and other wrestlers how to protect ourselves and make sure that we can mitigate these injuries in the long run, so you can have a long-standing career rather than just 5 months because you decided to do a moonsault 450 backdrop power driver off of a truck. You know what I mean? It's these different things that all go together. So,
oof, wow. Where to start from that? You know what? I'm gonna put a pin in all of that, because that's a lot right there. And that was actually, I think, if anyone besides fans watch this, and then if you're a wrestler, I think that right there probably is the best piece of advice anyone could probably give you on how to protect yourself, literally. So with that, I'm going to go on to, since year one was interesting, how was year two?
okay, year two. I wish I can find the scarf. It's somewhere around here somewhere. But I went to wrestle in Dubai with got something rescheduled for wrestling today. That's good. That means more sleep for me.
Hey.
I just received the notification. But I was I met three guys from Dubai my first year in wrestling. They came to train with us because they heard Matt Seidel was one of the best premier, wrestlers in Florida and one of the best schools in Florida. So they came on down. We had a bit of chemistry in the ring, but I never thought it would be anything like, okay, I'd see these guys ever again, or if I do, it'll be like, hey, handshake behind the locker room, so on and so forth. But Matt was like, keep these, keep the people that you meet close in wrestling. And he may not have said that verbatim, but he said it pretty close. And I did keep them close. In fact, I made a post about wanting to do bookings for the current year for 2022 last December, and I got an opportunity to go wrestle in Dubai at WrestleFest, DXB or WrestleFest Dubai, which was Dubai's first big independent pro wrestling show out, any wrestling show outside of WWE, and wrestling in front of not only 200 fans, but my grandparents and my mom was something that I can't ever replace. I mean, I've got the article. If you go on to Google, you can see the article from Wrestle Maps, and just seeing the crowd, seeing the setup. You're in that moment, and you don't really take it in until you're outside and you're seeing it from the bird's eye view, and you're seeing just that whole experience, and then remembering how it felt. It's something I can't replace. So wrestling in Dubai was definitely the high point of my second year so far. But since then, I've met now being in the tutelage and being under Jay Lethal, Big Khan, David Mercury, and Matt Seidel all at once. I feel like the universe is saying, let's let all the stars align for your second year and for years to come. And I'm really looking forward to how these next 20, hopefully 20 years is going to go in in professional wrestling, and getting the chance to travel and meet the different people I've met, getting the different acquaintances that I've met, seeing how they've grown, them seeing how I've grown. And it's something beautiful,
You had, before I go back to Dubai, you mentioned Jay Lethal again, and this is a guy I feel that no matter where he's been in any company, he's always been, he's bar none better than the rest, if I'm being honest.
Yes.
What has Jay Lethal taught you that's kind of really stuck with you? Like the most important thing he's taught you so far?
What's funny about Jay is my first, so before our schools merged, we had like one big group training session, and I was messing up every single thing I was doing. It wasn't his style. It wasn't the style that I learned at the wrestling lab, that they learned at the wrestling lab. It was something different, and also, to be honest, Matt really wouldn't have approved of it. But it was just a different, varying styles, and we'll get into that in a bit as well. And I felt really defeated. That was, honestly, now I can't believe I'm like really admitting this to the world, but I mean, hey, YOLO. I cried in the car because I felt like my art, my being, what I've been working so hard for, what I've traveled, and put money and time and a lot of emotion into, was just looked at as like, it is what it is. Or, it was being constantly critiqued. But then as we joined the school, and I still had my, feeling in the background of like, okay, let's just try this out and see how this goes with the schools merging. And my God, I am like absolutely blessed to be under him and to learn from him. And oddly enough, I was cutting a promo, and I mentioned I was the youngest wrestler, American pro wrestler, to wrestle in Dubai. Jay actually was. And he mentioned it. He's like, well, you know what? Actually, I was the youngest one to wrestle in Dubai. And then kind of find out we were both 19, but his happened way before me, so it was like he was the first one, and like my birthday's a week before his, literally on the dot a week before his. So as time's going on, I've really learned just how genuine and how much he cares for the business. But if I'm gonna go back to it, he told the class on one of our first classes that our opinions only matter so much. What you do in there, if you think it's right, you think it's right. But for this time being, we're gonna show you what we think is right. And then as time goes on, you'll be able to mold and figure out what works best for you. And to have, the yin and yang with Matt and with Jay is something super spectacular to have in one space. To have someone who has this, I say the best way to compare Matt's training style is very Japanese, very like New Japan, or very dojo style dojo, right? And Jay is very versatile. Not saying Matt isn't, but Jay's way that he teaches, it seems more universal, and that one that everyone can understand. And seeing him break things down and having him critique every small thing. Now I'm going over the basics again, being in his beginner's class and taking his beginner's class while also doing my advanced classes with Matt. I'm able to see, oh, this small thing can change everything. This small thing can make you the difference between a professional wrestler and a pro wrestler. And that's another thing I learned from Low Ki. One thing I can say I learned from Low Ki was there's pro wrestling and there's professional wrestling. And you want to be a professional wrestler. So I'm taking in as much knowledge as I possibly can from all these people, whether they're my fellow peers or whether they've been in the business for years and they've gotten to the local independent circuit, or all the way to WWE, to New Japan, wherever they may be. I'm taking these little nuggets of information and processing it and filtering it to better understand who I am as a wrestler, how I can portray my message and whatever message I want to portray.
And to go back to Dubai, you're 19 in Dubai, wrestling in front of 200 plus people. Honestly, I didn't even know Jay Lethal actually have wrestled in Dubai, believe it or not. And I'm kind of like a wrestling buff. So you explain how that felt. Who'd you go against, and did you win? Like, what was?
So I went against Eli Hush, he's a mime. And I believe he was born in California, but then his dad's from Denmark, but then he moved to Dubai. That's his story to tell. So Eli, if you're watching this, please, you tell your story. You're going to tell your story at some point, but because he's a great wrestler for the abilities that he has. And he's definitely a good wrestler that I think at some point everyone should wrestle. Because he tells his story without speaking. I think as wrestlers, we're so vocal, and we tell stories through sound. We do these different things. We chop. No one can ever take away the fact that a chop hurts like hell, and that a forearm hurts like hell. So like if you ask me if someone says this is fake, I'll chop you or I'll give you a forearm, and we'll see how fake that really is. But either way, Eli was able to really push that story, and I'm glad that I was able to step in the ring with him and push that story and push that narrative of this is a big show. This is Dubai. I remember a fan coming to me coming to my mother at the end of the show and saying how this was a huge deal for the Emirati wrestling scene, and how this for that section of the world to have that show. Granted, WWE has put on shows there, and then also I'm a huge fan of Dynamite Kid, so scrolling through his Instagram, like his post, not post more. It's what's the word? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, his after death Instagram that his daughter runs. He was in Dubai, so I assume he wrestled there as well. So there have been tons of wrestlers that have come through Dubai, but Dubai's wrestling scene and the wrestling scene in the Middle East, in that section of the Middle East, is so young and so fresh that you need to look out for the main attraction, MK Shaheen of the Sky, who Shaheen is one of.
I've actually I've heard that name tossed around before.
Yes, he's gonna be like one of the, just to be compared. And I'm not comparing him, but just for others that don't know, he's like the Rey Mysterio in my eyes. And also taking after Matt Sydal and learning from him as well as Jay Lamrod, Novanox, and a few others that are out there that really put on one of my favorite wrestling shows in general. It's not just because I was on it, just seeing that talent, seeing that freshman talent. And now they've gone to their second show, going on to the third show. Ironically, it's called Diamond in the Dirt. I should be there, but I'm not going to talk about that. We've got D Maloney, who's actually now their champion. So if you guys know who Dan Maloney is, or D Maloney Drilla, then you guys know that now he is the new WrestleFest DXB champion. And again, just having that moment, first time ever being out of the country. The only other time I was out of the country, I was 2 years old in Canada. I'm from Detroit, so Detroit is literally 15 minutes away.
Yeah,
it doesn't really count, but to be there in Dubai, wrestling in front of my family, wrestling in front of these fresh new eyes to wrestling, people that genuinely hated me because they don't know anything about wrestling, and they saw that I was a prick, and to have that, to tell that story and to tell that superhero villain story in front of all those people, man, it's something that I can never, ever have taken away from me. It's something that, although that was a great experience, I'm looking for more experiences like that in the future. So that's not the only time that you'll see this face in Dubai, and also not the only time you'll see this face overseas.
Wow. It's funny. It's like, normally I have a whole bunch of questions lined up, but you keep hitting them as you keep going. So I only have like a few left. My next one, because we've already talked about goals. From what it looked like, your goal really, from what it seems to be, New Japan, right?
Wow, you hit it on the dot. Yes. If you actually go up to this little Instagram here, you'll see that I had a photo shoot with the New Japan flag.
That's what I was. Yeah.
That's the flag that I want to carry, both metaphorically as well as literally. Seeing the lineage of the junior heavyweight division. I mean, you've got Chris Benoit, you've got Owen Hart, Low Key, Fergal Devitt. Although they were tag champions, Ricochet, Matt Sydal, Will Ospreay, just all those faces that have gone through that division that had made an impact in professional wrestling. And I'm pretty sure there's numerous other names I'm just forgetting, but those are the ones that stand out the most to me and the most influential ones. I see my face with that title one day. I see my face in that division one day. I've been told by, a few of my friends that, it's, weight doesn't matter in wrestling. For me, it does. To have a super heavyweight, a heavyweight, if you're watching someone like Akebono versus Sakuraba, there's a huge difference in weight. It's wrestling in weight divisions is something that, like Jay said, your opinions are your opinions in wrestling, and you can use those to whatever way you want to use them. My opinion is the cruiserweight division is a cruiserweight division because it's the cruiserweight division. The cruiserweight division on Nitro back in the 90s was seen as just a secondary show, and then now everyone's doing it. You know what I mean? The heavyweight division was the heavyweight division back then. There really was no super heavyweight division back then. Now we're kind of moving into the territory where we're seeing a lot of the bigger guys doing what smaller guys are doing, and that's fine. I think that if you had the athleticism, show it off. But I want to stand out. I want to be the diamond in the rough. I want to be the diamond of Detroit. I want to show what a Detroiter's made of. I want to show what Truman Hudson III is made of. And most importantly, I want to show what a real junior heavyweight is made of. And I think that I can personify that training under the best junior heavyweights. I mean, low key, Matt Seidel, Jay Lethal, all these guys I'm learning from, and that I've learned from in the past have really helped push that narrative. And I see myself, I see the vision, I see it happening, being in New Japan, winning that junior heavyweight title. And if my inklings, everything I said I wanted to do, I've done. I said I wanted to travel across the world to become a professional wrestler. Back in high school, sitting at my desk, ready to get out of class, 1 month before COVID hit, I said, I want to do this. Here I am 2 years later doing it. Everything I have said I wanted to do, even in my personal life, has happened when I put it out there. So I know it's going to happen. And if it doesn't happen in New Japan, it's going to be in Noah. It's going to be somewhere either way. My stake is going to be claimed in the land of the rising sun. And once I have my name over there and everyone knows, TH3, Truman Hudson III, the Diamond of Detroit, they're going to know that name and they're going to say it right.
I got one more because you just answered like 6 questions somehow, and I was like, wait, what? So my last one. What are your goals in UPW?
My goals in UPW is I see this as a young company. And lots of people, I was never given the chance when it came to certain people I would try to reach out to. I'm like, sir, can I have you on my show? As a 16-year-old, getting wrestlers on my shows, some of them didn't believe in me. Some of them were like, it's whatever. They may have had their busy schedule. Either way, I felt like there was no. And as my father, Dr. Truman Hudson Jr., always pushed was, I've gotten a million no's, but those yeses are the ones that count the most. I think W is one of those yes. If you think about it, if you watch 2002 Ring of Honor, when they were performing in high school gyms, when they were just at their beginning and all the talent that they had, and already seen the talent that I've already shared locker rooms with come into UPW and be signed to UPW, including having my tag partner, Farrell Santana, also be a part of UPW, and having potential to come into UPW in the future. I feel honored to have been a part of this roster and to be a part of this roster, as well as to help push that new promotion. Just like my one moment on top of others' moments help push WrestleFest Dubai. I know for sure that my one moment out of others' moments is going to help push UPW.
Damn, that was actually the most professional answer I've ever gotten on one of these. Jesus. So, do you have any social media you want to plug?
Yeah, I've been plugging it the entire episode right here. TH3. Wait, hold on, I was in reverse. TH3 Truman Hudson. At Hudson is the Instagram. You can follow me on Facebook at Truman Hudson III. Those are the only ones. I don't use Twitter. It just is mind numbing to me, so I can't use it. But definitely Instagram. You'll find my highlights and my day to day. And if you want to know more about me, that's the go to.
All right. And folks, it's back to the long list of social medias. All righty. Twitter and Facebook, Urban PW. Instagram, Urban Pro Wrestling. We have a website, www.urbanpw.com. Check it out. It's your all-access stop to anything UPW gets updated weekly. So you'll be seeing this man's face on our roster page by the end of this week coming up. Bunch of good things are happening. June 26th, we have confirmed with the City of Daytona Beach at the Yvonne Scarlett Golden Educational and Events Center. June 26th, 1000 Vine Street. I can't wait to see you guys there. Tickets will be on sale later on this week. And as well as the match card announcements as well. A lot of big things happening this week and next week. We do have press conferences coming up. So that's going to be also a fun time. It's probably going to be very tense for me because I've got to sit there and try to manage 2 people not trying to attack each other the entire time. So that was a lot. But Thank you guys again. I really appreciate. Thank you, Mr. Truman, for taking the time with me. And you guys have a great one. June 26th is right around the corner. I can't even speak right now, but it's right around the corner. Can't wait to see you guys all there. Stay off the hook, everybody.